I'd like to call to order the May 8th, 2018 meeting of the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Sure. Good morning. Supervisor Serna?
Here.
Kennedy?
Here.
Peters?
Here.
Frost?
Here.
Natoli?
Here.
And you have a quorum. This meeting of the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors is cablecast live on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on the Comcast, Consolidated Communications, and AT&T Uverse cable systems. The meeting is closed captioned and is webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. Today's meeting will be repeated Friday, May 11th at 6 p.m. on Channel 14. A DVD copy is available for checkout from any local library branch. Members of the audience wishing to address the board may fill out a speaker slip and hand it to staff. When the chair calls your name, please come to the podium. And also, if you could silence your electronic devices at this time.
Thank you. Would everyone stand and please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you.
For your consent matters, items 1 through 41. For item number 4, I need a motion to continue this to June 19th.
So
This
moved.
is
Second.
unanimous vote. For item number 7, you are introducing an ordinance amending Sacramento County Code, Chapter 6.28, Title 6, relating to well inactivation permit term change from 2 years to 5 years. You're waiving reading and continuing to May 22nd for adoption. For item 34, I need a motion to drop. It's the authorization to apply for and accept Federal Emergency Management Agency Hazard Mitigation Grant for Woodside Flood Risk Mitigation Project.
But we have some speakers on item 34, so we'll pull that from the
Okay.
consent and discuss it after we finish the rest of
Sure.
consent. Thank you.
That concludes my notes.
Okay. Anyone have any comments? Mr. Natoli?
No, ma'am.
Okay. I would like the record to reflect I'm recusing myself from item 23, 25, and 26 for potential conflict of interest. And then we have speakers on item 24 and 34, so we'll pull those till after we vote on the consent calendar.
Okay, so for item 24, on-call construction support services, First Amendment to agreement with Valley Cooper and Associates for construction support services.
Okay, we have two speakers on this item, Thomas Misrek and Mark Steffen. Thomas?
Good morning. Thank you for having me today. Welcome.
Good morning.
This item is called On-Call Services. It should be called All the Time Services. Seems like it's the wave of the future here in Sacramento County. Outsourcing work has been going on since the early and late 90s. When I was a contractor here, that used to have Apex doing a lot of the architectural design and review. Apex got wiped out pretty much by CMID, went to outsourcing. 71J requires 3 things. What are those 3 things? That they be competitive in price, which they aren't. And I've gone to every one of you at the board here and proved that to you. You have that information. Second is that they're more efficient. At least in the building department, they are definitely not. That's why they're not being used right now. And that they have special expertise. Well, that's been engineered out as well. We used to have the engineering and we used to have the expertise within CMID, but it seems that lately it's been, well, not even lately, it was done in the 2000s, that actually they reduced the amount of people that worked for CMID in construction management, and all they did is design a group that manages construction projects now and outsources work and uses the small group that still remains of construction inspectors and surveys, and lab technicians. We've been fighting for every single job. They do not replace the people in a timely manner. When somebody is to the point where they retire, they don't get replaced. So we're pretty stagnant. And so it's pretty much engineered to be able to use 71J. But here's the caveat, and I went to each and every one of you, is that when you don't have employees working, you don't get the retirement piece that we have negotiated since 2012. We now pay half of the funded liability of the county in our pension. I would like to ask each and every one of you to have county council review the necessary requirement to have the contractors pay a portion within their contract as a donation to the pension fund. This would be an equal footing for us. Since we pay our amount, we're at a definite disadvantage. I'd like also for you to review the costs and the requirements and the actual need, because it seems excessive.
Mr. Minister, could you wind up your comments, please?
I will, ma'am. This contract is an ongoing problem that I wish everybody could foresee the future, which means 71J is here to stay.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Natoli had a comment.
Yeah, not so much for Tom, but maybe for Nav, but it relates to what Mr. Misrick just related to. Now, when we had this item before us back on April 10th, the question was posed relative to what you just stated, Tom, and we just got information from County Council, and maybe Robin can weigh in on that this morning, about, at least as relates to the legal parameters for what you've just suggested, and certainly have your cohort suggested at the last meeting as well when we talked about this. I guess I'm curious, though, about the number of positions maybe going into the recession and then coming out. We added some positions, if I recall, on April 10th as well. But your point is that obviously there's a pool of folks that pay into the retirement system, and that with a shrinking pool of folks going forward, concern is obviously for the immediacy of the work, but also for the long-term prospects of what that means to folks, certainly in the areas that you've cited with construction management and some of the other related areas. So my question is that number of positions, have we reduced the number of positions over time? Has it been pretty much static? And maybe Mike Penrose, I guess I'm curious, because you made the comment, Tom, and I want to get some background behind that.
Supervisor Natoli, it varies by unit, so I didn't bring all of those numbers with me today, but fundamentally, in a downturn, we significantly reduced staffing across the board.
Right.
And what has happened in the year since that is we've incrementally been building up staff. So it's not accurate to say that we're holding that down. What we have been doing is we've been doing that in a very measured approach. And so in the building department, which was the subject of the April 10th stuff, we have been adding staff in that group, and I can bring you all the numbers to that. We've been doing it incrementally, as well as in CMID. We just added a couple of additional positions just last month. But we have been doing it in a measured approach, and we've been conveying that information, by the way, to those who've been following this topic. The other thing that I think might be of value, because it's not always in context here, is that the amount of work that we're talking about potentially contracting out through this specific contract is something less than 5% of the work that unit does, the obligation that they have on an annual basis. And as we see the baseline continuing to be reliable and continuing to grow, we're trying to appropriately match that staffing plan. So hopefully that begins to answer the question.
Supervisor Natoli, on the first question about contribution to the retirement system, we do have an opinion from County Council. We got yesterday. We do need to sit down with Tom and his group and with our labor folks to go over what the opinion is and continue the dialogue with him about the concept that they had proposed to us. So
Okay,
we intend on doing
So we
that.
haven't had any follow me. I'm sorry.
No, I think that's probably covered.
I just have one comment to the comment about hiring people in building department. That is a true, correct statement. I wish CMID would follow that. The reason they don't hire people is because they use a lot of overtime, which is expensive. And then in the wintertime, they lay the guys off with their own time, make them leave. I would rather see a limited term position to get rid of the overtime piece, which would be less expensive, and lay the people off when the contract is done. That way you have institutional knowledge, it stays within the group.
Mr. Misrach, you've already had your 3 minutes, so.
All right, I was just responding to
Sure,
to
you're going
his-
to have a meeting with county council.
All right.
She'll explain
Thank
her
you.
memo to you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Tom.
Mark Steffen?
Good morning, Supervisors. My name is Mark Steffen. I'm the Secretary-Treasurer for the Engineering Technicians, Technical Inspectors. I've been with the county 19 years through the up and down times. I want to acknowledge you for the hiring we've done over the past few years. This is a good time to be with the county, and we want to support you in what you've done and see that it continues. Tom has talked about the costs and the inefficiencies of 71J contractors and the lack of long-term accountability with the third-party services, and the opportunity cost of not developing institutional knowledge when county employees are not hired. An additional concern we have that we would like to bring to your attention is the misuse and the over-reliance on the retired annuitants. The SCRS policy on post-retirement employment outlines the parameters and guidelines regarding post-retirement employment. As you all know, the 2013 California State Legislature instituted broad pension reforms on retirees looking to return to work as retired annuitants. These reforms imposed additional restrictions on retirees looking to return to work as retired annuitants. Pepper also shifted oversight responsibilities to public pension plans in several areas. One of the key requirements is that the retiree has special skills needed to perform work of a limited duration, or the retiree's employment is needed during an emergency to prevent stoppage of public business. That's not what we're seeing. Within our bargaining unit, we have seeing retired annuitants being brought back over 2, 3, and 4 years. They don't appear to have the special skills as they are doing regular work, and they're not used for limited duration or emergencies. They will be used as seasonal or part-time employees and are jeopardizing their retirement benefits. Post-retirement employment, which fails to meet the requirements set forth in PEPRA and CERL, is considered unlawful employment and warrants remedy of reinstatement of the retired annuitant to active membership. Upon reinstatement, the employee and the employer will both be required to pay contributions, including interest, for the period of unlawful employment. Within our department, we have a retirement annuitant filling a management position that has been brought back more than once, and it appears the plan is to have another retired annuitant step in when the cap of the hours is reached for the first retired annuitant and essentially fill a position with these 2 retired annuitants. The consequences of the unlawful employment is threefold. If the retired annuitant is being used as a seasonal part-time employee, they are jeopardizing their retirement. The policy states they must be reinstated and pay contributions, including interest, for the period of unlawful employment. The county has to pay contributions, including interest as well. When retired annuitants are filling key positions, there is a stagnation in the organization, and the county loses the opportunity to move forward and build institutional knowledge in a permanent employee. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay, go to item 34.
Item 34, authorization to apply for and to accept Federal Emergency Management Agency Hazard Mitigation Grant for Woodside Flood Risk Mitigation Project.
Okay, we have 3 speakers today, Pamela Williams, then Lynn Efkin, and then Adriana Martinez. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Supervisors. My name is Pamela Williams. I am a resident of Woodside, and yes, I also have experienced one of our, unfortunately, one of our floods, so I know what it's like to have 4 feet of water in your house. But I'm speaking today on behalf of the Board of Directors of Woodside, and we are asking that you not remove this item from the consent calendar, or that at least you accept the recommendations and proceed with the application for FEMA. Woodside has spent about $90,000 so far working with the Department of Water Resources very cooperatively. We've spent about $20,000 on preliminary design and engineering and about $70,000 on FEMA flood elevation certificates. There's no downside to the county, in our opinion, at this point. All you're doing is authorizing pursuing a FEMA grant. We may or may not get the grant. I understand, Supervisor Peters, you may have heard from some Woodside residents that are not in support of raising the buildings, which is certainly their right, but there are 725 owners in Woodside, and if we apply for the grant, you guys apply for the grant. If it's granted and we get the funding, then we will have an election at Woodside among the owners. So we would ask that you keep that opportunity available to us and approve the recommendation today to proceed with the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Lynn Efkin?
Madam Chair and Supervisors, I'm Lynette Caen. I have been a resident of Woodside since 1976. I've experienced all three floods that we've had, 86, 98, and 2005. And it is devastating for the people that live there, that are in those areas that have been flooded. They lose everything. They usually lose their vehicles at the same time. Not only do they experience the devastation of the flood, but every time the canal starts to fill up, they start worrying about, is this going to be the time that we're going to flood again? We have tried many different ways to get protection for ourselves, but it seems like everything that we suggest or recommend that we can do as a homeowners association, we would impact somebody else in the area. This seems to be the most viable solution to protecting the homeowners there. In 86, we had 171 homes flooded. In 98, we had 39, and in 2005, there were 63. The people that were flooded, the 63 people have been flooded 3 times. So I really urge you to approve item 34 and find some protection for those people. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Efkin. Adriana Nand?
Good morning, Madam Chair and
Just
Supervisors.
stand between the 2 microphones.
Oh,
Yeah,
perfect.
there we go. Thank you.
So I'm Adriana Nand, the Community Manager of Woodside, and I'm here representing the residents. These residents are families. We have 61 families who will be flooded. If we don't give them an option, they're looking to me for an answer. We've tried sandbagging. We spend countless nights awake watching the stream and the rivers change. My staff will be on edge the entire time. But then what do we do about these 61 people that we know will flood again? They're going to have to move their children out. They're displaced as we rebuild for months on end. This is another cause to homelessness. So what I'm doing is when my residents come looking to me for an answer, I'm looking for a chance from you guys to at least apply for this FEMA grant. It will change the lives of the Woodside residents.
Thank you. Just so you know, I've just asked this to be pulled off for a couple of weeks for you to hold a homeowners association meeting so that all the residents have a chance to know what's going on. That's primarily what I have heard from residents, is that they've heard a rumor that this is going on. They would like to have their opinion recognized in a public meeting. They'd like to hear the facts in a public meeting. And as far as I understand, that hasn't happened. Maybe the plan was to have it after and if the FEMA grant was granted. I've spent many hours on this. I've been out during the flood times. We've had FEMA out before. I understand what is at stake here. I'm not in any way saying that the Woodside shouldn't have flood protection. I would love to see that, but I think residents need to be able to weigh in. So when you have a public meeting, for all the homeowners, then we'll put it back on the agenda. Okay? Thank you. Any other questions for consent calendar? No?
Madam Chair, so we'll need a motion to drop item 34.
That's my motion.
Second.
Unanimous vote. And then that leaves the balance of your consent matters with the exception of items 4, 23, 25, 26, and 34.
23, 25, 26 stay on, it's just I'm recusing from those.
Correct.
Okay.
Just-
Mr. Natoli, did you have a question?
Yeah, just a quick question, just to follow on. I want to be clear. So on item 24, Nav, we're going to take the action here this morning, but you're going to continue to meet with folks, obviously county council, as the chair stated, but to sit and talk with them about some of the concerns. And I think obviously Mike Penrose has pointed out, some of the approaches we're taking, but I think it's important in light of obviously of the impact certainly to folks that are employed by Sacramento County.
Absolutely. We want to keep the dialogue open.
All right, thanks.
Okay, so let's go over where we are again.
So on the balance, we have items 4, we have the balance 1 through 41, and then with the exception of 4, 23, 25, 26, and 34, let the record reflect that Chair Peters is recusing from 23, 25, and 26.
Okay. Anyone move consent?
I'll move the balance of consent.
Second.
Please vote.
Unanimous vote. Okay, so for item 42 is the presentation of resolution recognizing May is Lupus Awareness Month.
Is Julie Prater in the audience?
Here she comes.
I just have a few comments, and I'll give you the resolution, and then you can make your comments. You can stand right here. This is a resolution recognizing May 2018 as Lupus Awareness Month. More than 5 million people worldwide suffer from the devastating effects of lupus, and each year another 100,000 men, women, and children will be diagnosed with this disease. It's 2 to 3 times more prevalent among people of color, including African Americans, Hispanics, Asians, and Native Americans. Lupus is a chronic autoimmune disease that causes inflammation of various parts of the body, particularly the skin, heart, joints, and kidneys. The research shows that 1.5 million Americans have been diagnosed with lupus, which strikes women about 9 times more frequently than men. And the Lupus Foundation of Northern California, serving California from Santa Cruz to the Oregon border, was founded as a nonprofit organization to alleviate suffering from lupus patients through patient and family services and achieve early dedication of undiagnosed cases through awareness promotion and achieve the eradication of lupus by supporting lupus research. So the Board of Supervisors hereby recognizes May 2018 as Lupus Awareness Month and extends heartfelt wishes to the Lupus Foundation of Northern California for success in their core objectives in the future. So we have this resolution for you. Okay. Would like to make some comments? Sure.
Good morning, members of the board, and thank you for taking time out of your busy agenda to recognize May as Lupus Awareness Month in Sacramento County. Raising awareness is a key factor to more research being conducted, which can lead to better treatment options and hopefully a cure one day. Perhaps one of the most frustrating parts of this illness is how we can feel so ill on the inside but look so normal on the outside. There's often a profound sense of isolation that comes with battling lupus, and raising awareness of this disease also sends a comforting message to those silently battling that they are not alone. I'm a lifelong Sacramento resident, and I'm proud to be part of such a diverse community. Lupus is 2 to 3 times more prevalent in women of color. The importance of raising awareness right here in our community, as you have done today, is so important to sustaining the healthy diversity that we have all come to enjoy here in our county. I'm proud to accept this resolution on behalf of the Lupus Foundation of Northern California and for all the lupus warriors in Sacramento County. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you. Would the clerk please read the next item?
Item 43 is the presentation proclaiming May 8th, 2018 as the kickoff of the 2018 Life Looks Good on You and Kids Don't Float River Safety Campaigns.
Mr. Leatherman.
Thank you, Board, and I also have a couple of slides with some photos for the kickoff of this campaign, if I could bring those up. And why that's coming up, I think it's appropriate as we start to talk about safety to be wearing the life jacket today.
Okay.
Because it's, yes, feel free to get your phones out. It's properly buckled.
Yes.
If I can have double check. Good fit. Okay, good, thank you.
But you have no neck.
I have no neck. It is the adult size. It is orange. But I appreciate the board taking the time not only to recognize our Life Looks Good on You and Kids Don't Float program, but it's our way of saying from our experience in 2015 that one drowning is frankly one too many. We had some very tragic drownings in 2015, and in 2016 we kicked off our Life Looks Good on You program. We did this in partnership with a number of different partners, our Sacramento soccer team, the Sac Republic, along with a variety of other safety partners in Sacramento County, recognizing that not only wearing a life jacket is important, but staying safe on the river. As part of that, in 2016, we attended a number of different events. We had a number of events in Sacramento, both in Discovery Park and spread throughout the community, and really trying to reach our audience of adult males 18 to 25 years old. As you can see from the life jacket that I'm wearing right now, it is not the most attractive piece of equipment that you could possibly wear while out on the river.
We can see you, though.
Yes, you can see me, and I am alive, which is so important.
You wear it so well.
Yes, you know, it's part of the job description as a regional parks director to wear it right. And really, this is a conversation piece. It's a conversation piece in our community about how are we staying safe, what the dangers of the river are, and how we want people to eventually go home at the end of the day and enjoy their friends and family. Our partnership should not go unrecognized. Sacramento Republic has been a great partner. They've supported this event. We have an estimated reach annually with our partnership with Sac Republic and our Sac City College basketball team of about 11,000 impressions throughout our community, right into our target demographic. We've also had some significant partnerships with the Art and Fair Mall last year in 2017. They allowed us to do a mall takeover. We dressed up some mannequins throughout the mall. We spent the day there talking to people about river safety and celebrating not only our rivers, but also our Life Looks Good on You campaign. We had a Discovery Park grand reopening event last year. We had some significant flooding on the river, and we weren't able to open the park until almost the 4th of July weekend. And so we were able to reopen the park and celebrate Life Looks Good on You, both with the mural that you see at the bottom photo. We tried to do a life jacket float down the river, but that didn't quite work. And we had some other events that day as well. And we closed out our 2017 year with our Labor Day event, giving away free ice cream to people wearing life jackets on the beach. Our DART team, fire departments, and others supported this event by making sure that they continued to send the message of safety throughout our community. This year, we're partnering one step beyond with different areas within Sacramento County that people can actually take swim lessons. Now, this doesn't automatically replace a life jacket in the rivers of Sacramento or the American, but we want to encourage people to do the most safe choices possible, not only to take swim lessons for themselves and for their kids, but also wearing a life jacket in the river. We want to thank all of our sponsors and our partners. It is so important that we recognize not only our DART team, but my staff as well, our American River Parkway Foundation, the Fire Department, Sac Republic, Sac State this year, who continue to send the message of safety, continue to celebrate life as it looks good on us here in Sacramento. And just for our audience at home, they can get all kinds of resources and information at our lifelooksgoodonyou.org website. That includes our life jacket loaner stations. It includes information on where they can borrow life jackets from our fire departments, as well as other safety items on the American River. And with that, I'll answer any questions from the board and invite the board down to take a photo. You don't have to wear the life jacket, I'll do that for you, but if you can just hold one as a consolation prize for this. And I'll turn red less
Mr. Serna has
later.
a question first.
I just wanted to publicly thank Jeff and his staff. They've been champions of this campaign, not just now this year, but in years past. And he's absolutely right. We had a series of tragedies not too long ago, and there was a very holistic, comprehensive campaign that included Life Looks Good, but also working to enhance the resource base for our DART team and cooperative efforts between regional parks and DART to make sure that we can look back on a summer season near our waterways where there aren't any tragedies. So I just want to again thank Jeff and everyone at the county here that is making this such a successful campaign and actually saving lives.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go have our picture taken
All right,
with the
thank you.
life jackets.
No, you don't have to. Thank you, yes.
Don can't get it over his hair.
And a related subject, let's go on to the next item.
Item 44, presentation of resolution recognizing May 19th through the 25th, 2018 as National Safe Boating Week.
If Commander Shaper will meet me at the podium, please.
That's a tough act to follow.
Tough act. Madam Chair and fellow colleagues on the board, very pleased to be back before the board to once again recognize May 19th through the 25th of this year as National Safe Boating Week. I'm here with our Coast Guard Auxiliary Flotilla Commander, that's quite a title.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Robert Shabert. And this is in recognition of all the great work that our auxiliary does every year to make sure that people, our boaters, are prepared for a safe boating season. And I wanted to make mention of the fact that there is a new law that's in effect this year, starting at the beginning of the year. It's going to be phased in over 8 years, but boaters 20 years of age or younger are required to get a boater's card, correct? So please, do you know the website that they can go to learn more? I believe it's California Division of Boating and Waterways.
It is, yes.
Okay. In any event, this resolution again is to honor the great work that the men and women of our local Coast Guard Auxiliary do to keep us safe on the waterways and to encourage boaters to take a boating safety class as we enjoy our rivers and lakes here in the Sacramento region. So I'm going to present this resolution to you and then ask you to say a few words about all the great work that you do.
I'll get my photographer up here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we'll get mine too.
Oh, okay.
You want to send it here?
It's going to be a Kodak moment.
Let's do this.
Okay.
Commander, the floor is yours.
Oh, well, one moment, please. Like they say on TV, wait, there's more.
Oh, okay.
We'd like to present this to you for your support of
Wow.
It Looks Good on You.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Appreciate that.
And we are going to get you in the air in a C-27. Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Am I going to be required to wear one of those life preservers?
We have our own.
Okay.
Can we get a photograph of
Sure.
you in this?
Sure. honor.
Good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, as Supervisor Serna said, May 19th is the kickoff for National Safe Boating Week. This year we're going to have it in 3 locations: Miller Park, Discovery Park, and Old Sacramento. We'll have static displays in Old Sac. Last year we brought a helo in from Air Station San Francisco to do a rescue swimmer demonstration. After about the 3rd attempt at the river, they actually got called on a real rescue, so they had to leave the mission for us. But we had DART out there last year. SAC Fire was out. It was quite a demonstration, so we encourage everybody to come out this year and participate in National Safe Boating Week. This year I'd like to suggest that we team up with Parks and Rec and do some safe boating classes. As Supervisor Serna mentioned, it is going to be a state requirement being phased in over the next few years, and I think it'll be a great opportunity to bring more awareness to water safety in the Sacramento region.
Thank you, Commander.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Item 45 is the resolution to name the Conservation Preserve at Mather, the Isla M. Collin Conservation Preserve.
Thank you. I have to recuse myself on this for a potential conflict, but I wanted to wish you well and congratulate you on this honor. And Mr. Kennedy is going to take over for this point.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is one of the probably greatest moments in the long history of me on this board, being 3.5 years next to Isla's 28. While this is in Supervisor Natoli's district, he has graciously given me the opportunity to open this up. I will start with a memory. One of my first political memories when I was a boy was actually going to, with my mother, to go vote for Isla Collin in Lynn Roby's garage. That's some Sacramento history right there. When I was approached to do something to honor Isla by both John Taylor and Roger Dickinson, who, by the way, is very sorry he couldn't be here today. It was the fastest meeting we ever had. Part of that was because the subject matter was so convincingly overdue, and part of it was because John wasn't charging billable hours. But what was the only thing we had to talk about wasn't should we honor Isla, because that was a no-brainer. It was how do we honor Isla. And we kicked around some ideas. We talked about buildings, and you already have a park, and so we had to figure out what do we do that is not only available but more importantly that is appropriate. And we looked at the Conservancy. It was something that we came up with pretty quickly because it's something of beauty that exemplifies Isla's everlasting impact on our county. Isla served with grace. Isla served with great honor. Isla served with a soft-spoken nature, yet a spine of steel. Someone always to be respected, someone always to be loved, and someone to be reckoned with at times. And so it's with great honor that we introduce this today, and we name the Conservancy after Isla. And with that, I'd like to pass the baton over to the Dean of the Chamber.
Well, thank you, Patrick. And Flo, could you just move just a bit over so I can see Isla? There we go. I certainly want to direct my comments to all in the room here today, but I want to thank Patrick first for certainly his work on this, and certainly my colleagues for their interest in what the action we're going to take here in just a moment. And I know that Isla is joined by certainly her husband Don and many of her longtime friends and folks that worked and supported her from her days as a supervisor, but certainly friends and family members who again have been a part of her life, but also her public life. And I consider Isla Collin a very, very dear friend. I have known her well over 40 years now, from when first time, as Patrick was talking about his first time casting a vote in Lynn Roby's Garage for Isla. Isla and my predecessor on this board, Toby Johnson, ran for their first terms the very same year in 1978 and had a chance to crisscross each other's paths during that election cycle, and obviously from that point forward had a chance to work together on many different aspects of serving the people of Sacramento County. And I think, as you said very eloquently, Mr. Kennedy, that her contributions are many. Her will to see that the community aesthetics, particularly as related to our environment, were protected and were preserved. She was very clear. People knew where Isla stood, and whether they were from the environmental bent or they were from the development community or from county staff, Isla was clear, she was consistent, and certainly the legacy that she leaves, not only in public service, but I think with her work, particularly in this realm of the world, as the announcement about Mather was made back in 1988 that there would be a closure. And then, obviously, coming forward to 1993 when it first closed, she and again, I was not on the board at the time, but from 1995 forward, I served as a colleague of hers, and certainly we worked together in the early years as related to Mather and what would happen out there. But her leadership, particularly as it relates to the preservation of the natural areas out there that are truly a treasure, both environmentally, but to I think to the legacy of what California landscape looked like many decades, many generations ago, before the settlement of California and obviously the population growth. I think her recognition early on that this was a treasure. She worked with Eva Butler, who obviously is here in the audience today, and many others in the environmental community, but certainly with this board and with me and my colleagues and with my predecessors on this board, to assure that there would be a carve-out in that redevelopment and reuse and conversion of Mather that would respect and protect and preserve for all the generations to come that a vernal pool preserve out there. And obviously it's evolved through the work of many in this room and many others who are partners in seeing to it that that preserve will be a real treasure for all the generations to come after us. But Isla's work from this side of the dais over the years, again, is truly commendable. She'll leave a legacy for all of us through her work, and I think today what we're about to do is entirely appropriate, and it's a tribute to a woman, but certainly to a leader in this community who really stood head and shoulders on many issues, but in particular when it came to the environment and protection of our local treasures, and certainly the vernal pool preserve out at Mather is one of those, Isla. And again, as a dear friend and someone who I think very, very highly of, and obviously love you very much. This is one way for us from a very public standpoint to recognize your service to this community, your commitment to it, your love for this community, and all the contributions of time and effort and all the things that were challenges, but you continue to be a part of the fabric of this community. And so for you, for your family, but for all the generations of Sacramentos to come, the Isla Collin Conservation Preserve out at Mather will be a recognition of your good work and will be a legacy that we can all stand behind. So again, I offer my congratulations, and I'm pleased to to join with my colleague in offering a motion that we take this action today. There may be other comments before I do that, though.
Yes, I believe Supervisor Serna.
Thank you. So it's tough to follow Mr. Tully's comments and Mr. Kennedy's. They certainly have said many of the things that I'd like to convey myself to you, Isla. I guess what I would add is, and I'm sure Don and Patrick can attest to this, is that it really is a unique opportunity to serve in elective office, but more so when you're a native of the community where you serve. And so, like Supervisor Tully and Supervisor Kennedy, we have that great opportunity. And it gives us the ability to really understand the history of public service and the capacity as a supervisor here, and to understand the shoulders upon which we stand and try to do our best to best represent our constituents. And there are all kinds of lessons that perhaps you're not aware of that people like Supervisor Kennedy and I take from your service over the years. Certainly you had a very strong bond with my late father and my family, And so this is, again, very appropriate that we not only name the Conservancy Preserve for you, but that generations of, especially young people, will be asking the question, who was Isla Collin, and what did she do? Why was she important? Well, what did she contribute? And so I think at the same time that people will certainly acquire an understanding of our rare biological resources in this part of Sacramento County, they're also going to have an opportunity to learn about the history of who you are and what you did for all of us. So again, I can't express enough how supportive I am of this this naming, and it's just a delight to see you. And I want to add to what both Supervisors Natoli and Kennedy said earlier. I love you very much too.
Supervisor Frost.
I just wanted to have an opportunity to congratulate you, Isla. And I want you to know that even though, I guess you served from 79 to 2007, I want you to know that your face and your words and your name still pop up every now and then, because I'm the newest supervisor, and my staff and I have on a couple of occasions gone back into the archives to watch past meetings or see what someone said on some issue or what really happened, and it's been fun for us because we've been able to say, oh, that must be Isla Collins, and oh, look, there's Dawn and Toby Johnson, and we got to see you in action a couple of times, even though I've never met you in person. I know that your service has been commendable, that your reputation precedes you people hold you in very high regard, and so I do too. And I just want you to know that I feel like it's a privilege to be able to honor you in this way for your service to the county, and congratulations.
Thank you. And with that, I would like to make the motion to approve the resolution.
And I would second it. It's a little bit unusual, but Isla may remember this. Could we do a motion by the board and seconded by the board? We'll all four of us make the motion. And does that work?
Let the record reflect.
Okay.
All right. With that, please vote.
Unanimous vote with those members present.
And with that, Flo, do you have, the microphone? Thank you.
My voice is very weak, but I want to thank you and introduce you to a few friends from the residents. June Lang and Ola Johnson are both here. Ray Rand, and they were able to be here today because we had van service, and also accompanying us were Thelma was who is one of the caretakers at the institution, and we are very pleased to be here. Even though I don't talk much these days, which is a relief to none. But I certainly thank you for the honor you have bestowed on me and my family. Thank you.
That's great.
I'd actually like to get a photo, and I want to say add one more thing. You know, when you sit in this chair in District 2, it's inevitable that you're in a very large shadow, and I welcome that opportunity. So thank you very much. If we can go down and have a photo taken.
And she may want to invite friends and some of her staff to join us in the photo, too. I know I see Joyce Vahanovich here and Tony and want to join us?
It's going to be crowded. Let's see.
TP12204
Okay.
Thank you.
I didn't take public comment. I probably should. Is there anybody, we had no cards, is there anybody who would like to comment on that item? Oh, yeah. Okay, we do have one. Please state your name for the record.
Nice job, girls. Nice job.
Good morning.
Good morning, Eva.
I'm Eva Butler. I have the pleasure of living in Isla Collins District, which Patrick Kennedy is now in charge of. I thought I'd just tell a couple stories about how the origin story of this preserve in Isla and Splash kind of came together. Some of you might not know that before there was a Splash, there was a class in Crocker Riverside that needed to do an environmentality project to go to Disneyland and win a prize. And the teacher asked if I could help her with an idea. And at that time, I had been introduced to the Matherfield vernal pools and saw that, there was a plan to undergo a conversion, and there would be a preserve or gravel mines or velodromes or whatever. And I thought, well, here's a chance to teach kids about the science of the place we live and to get them outdoors. Getting science in the classroom, getting kids outdoors, what could be better? And there was Isla on the board, very much in favor of this, and the kids did win the prize. They went to Disneyland in 1998, and they went again in 1999, and when they came home from Disneyland, both times, Isla was there to greet them. I have photos of her being hugged by Jiminy Cricket. And the thing that impressed me, she was really the first politician that I knew here, and that sort of legacy of hers of making sure to be there, especially when it involved children, sort of recognizing that your legacy is the people you leave behind. And I just was so impressed by that. And then every step of the way, if you're going to, I don't know if you choose your mentors or if they choose you, but I ended up being mentored by this fine woman. And the breadcrumb trail that you leave because you won't be here forever, in retrospect, I recognize that that's what she was leaving. She was leaving that in the children and her support for Splash to make sure that kids were getting out there to, enjoy this resource. And one day she came to me and she said, I'd really like you to be on the Planning Commission. And that was a surprise to me. And she said, the reason I want you to do that is not the importance of the decisions you'll make as a commissioner, but it's about access, and it's about learning how the system works and who lives in it, because it'll make you a better advocate for Matherfield. And I'm still here 25 years later carrying that torch for her, and it's really wonderful to me to see the recognition that with a designation of this preserve in Isla's name, I think it just recognizes that these things take a long time and they take diligence, and a lot of that work isn't fun, and sometimes it means saying no to people that would rather have you say yes. But all the no's that happened, all the things that didn't occur at Matherfield between then and now, mean that we still have a landscape worth preserving, and 46,000 children who have personally visited it, and thousands more citizens. So as time goes on, I think the challenge to us is to make sure that her legacy and her name are on something that we care for well, and that we continue that legacy of government and people working together, because that's really where our strength is. So thank you so much for giving her this award that we can carry forward, and all the kids who come there from now on will know that there was a woman once who did a great thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Eva.
Thanks,
and thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Okay. Item 46 is the public hearing on the benefit category change and levy of increased service charges for the Verona subdivision with Zone 1 of County Service Area Number 1.
Good morning. I'm Bob Davison, Division Chief of the County Engineering Division. And today's public hearing is for the Verona subdivision to change the benefit category from safety light only to enhanced street and safety light, and the associated increase in the service charge. So with that, we know that one ballot was mailed and the clerk has received that ballot. And so therefore, I would recommend that you direct the clerk to tabulate the protest ballot received. And after that's done, I'll have one additional recommendation for you.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, you want to open all the envelopes?
Luckily, there's only one. Let's see. Okay, so we have one protest ballot voting no. The legal owner is Woodside. The parcel numbers are 121-0130, 0113-000, 121-0130-14000, 121-0130-15. 0000 and 121-0130-016-000, and the site addresses are 9065, 9053, 9035, and 9027 Calvine Road, and they are not in favor of the change.
And is that the majority of the votes?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm going to read this tabulation statement. The board received one oral and written protest, which the board has duly considered. One of the protest ballots returned by the close of the meeting of the hearing today, which represents 100% of the property owners. And 0% of the return ballots are in favor of the proposed benefit category change, and 100% are opposed.
Okay.
So is this a surprise?
A little bit. But so with that,
Do we know that the property owner understood what their...
I can certainly talk to the property owner to find out what happens.
Okay.
We could bring such a process back to your board if there was that sort of confusion.
Okay, so do we need to, we just drop it for the moment, or continue it to another time?
Well,
they can't go forward with their subdivision, because if they're not annexing the streetlight district, they're dead
That's
in
why I
water.
asked if they understood what was happening.
They're dead in water.
Are they in the audience today?
At this point, I would recommend that no action be taken. We can contact the owner, and they can be contacted again. We can repeat the process. I don't believe that there's any time limitation. So if there was some sort of confusion, we can work with that owner and figure out what happened.
Okay, I think at least
behind
one
you.
person is waving their hand in
Okay.
the back, so we'll just take no action on this item.
Did she want to address us?
I don't have a speaker card.
I don't know. She looked like she was, well, I don't.
Thank you.
Hello, good morning. I'm Lily Valenzuela with Woodside Homes, and we did want to annex in, so that was a mistake.
That's interesting.
So how can we handle this, Ms. County Counsel?
There comes Bob.
We should drop this item, and we can return it when folks have...
That's fine, as long as it doesn't hold up the subdivision.
I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry, what?
That's fine, we can go ahead and drop it, but as long as it doesn't hold up the subdivision approval?
I think it will hold up the subdivision, so we could, rather than drop it, can we continue it? I don't know if there are requirements that it be 30 days or something.
There is a 45-day requirement, but may I suggest, and I have to confirm with council, are you the owner?
Yes.
Okay, if we have the owner here, would it be possible for that owner to review, since the public hearing is still live, would it be possible for the owner to review that ballot? And
Could we come back at 2 o'clock?
I was going to say, let's move it to the
Let's come back
afternoon.
at 2 p.m. Let's figure this out, what we need to do.
Okay.
You might want to change your vote.
You don't get too many opportunities to change your vote.
Good that you were here. Good that you were here.
We'll come back at 2
Okay,
p.m.
so we'll just leave this open for the moment and come back at 2 p.m. Thank you. Next item, please.
Okay. Item 47, I will need a motion to drop this item. This is the resolution designating an underground utility district on Fair Oaks Boulevard from Angelina Avenue to Landis Avenue.
Why are we dropping this?
There was a notification problem with it. We'll be bringing it back immediately.
Okay, move to drop.
Second.
Unanimous vote.
Next item, please.
Okay, for item 48, this is the resolution of necessity authorizing eminent domain action to acquire real property for the old Florentown Streetscape Improvement Phase 2 project, Power In Road to Florin Perkins Road. And I want to point out a different item. This is for Patricia Dubray and Daniel Dubray as successor trustees of the John D. Squire Trust established October 4th, 2010, located at 8464 Florin Road. The APN number is 065-0020-062, and the environmental document is initial study addendum.
Good morning, Chair Peters, members of the board. I'm Mike Morris with the Department of General Services, and I'm here today to introduce this item, which recommends board approval for a resolution of necessity authorizing eminent domain action to acquire real property interests for the Department of Transportation's Old Florentown Streetscape project. The project will involve the installation of sidewalks, bike lanes, landscaping, and a number of streetscape improvements within the Old Florentown Main Street corridor. The subject property is located on the south side of Florin Road, approximately 550 feet west of Power Inn Road at 8464 Florin Road. The lot is approximately .598 acres in size and is improved with a single-family residence. The property interests required for the project are an easement for public roadway and public utilities consisting of 4,910 square feet, an easement for public utilities and public facilities consisting of 841 square feet, and an easement for temporary construction consisting of 810 square feet. The county obtained an appraisal from an independent appraiser and presented an offer to the property owner for the purchase of the easements I just mentioned. The owner accepted the county's offer and signed the acquisition agreement on July 13, 2017. Now, you'll recall about back in March, I presented an RON. Supervisor Serna asked if we had ever had an instance where we had a signed agreement but couldn't move forward due to a recorded deed error. I said at that time that in 12 years that had never happened. Yet today, for the second time in a row, I have to report that the county remains unable to secure interest in the subject property before you today because the owner is still in the process of effecting a correction to a grant deed that was erroneously recorded in February 2012. The county assessor records indicate that the property is currently owned by John D. Squire Trust. The trustees of the trust currently have a probate action pending in the Superior Court to reform a disputed grant deed and secure title in their names. The owners are being very cooperative and diligent in dealing with the county, but today's requested resolution of necessity is necessary to ensure project construction remains on schedule while the title issues are being resolved through the court. The notice of intention to seek the approval was mailed to the property by registered mail at least 15 days prior to today's hearing. And if you have any questions regarding the project, I have a staff here.
Okay, we do have a speaker, the attorney from the owners, Jessica Caulfield.
Okay.
Good morning. Thank you for taking the time to hear me. Obviously, everything you said is true. The probate court action is actually completed already. We had to reform two orders putting the property into the trust. This is honestly the most confusing property dispute issue I've ever seen. So there are actually multiple documents that have to be reformed. Thankfully, we did file the quiet title action. We have our case management conference hearing on Thursday, this coming Thursday morning, where we will request a hearing to proceed with a prove-up hearing. There will, as far as we know, no one that can contest or will contest it. The only other person who was given notice properly was Patricia Dubray's mother. So presumably she's not going to oppose this. So ideally it will be done shortly, depending on the court's schedule. We can make a motion to advance it if the court does not set it within the next month or so, because there is a buyer pending also. So there is the city's easement contract that is pending, and then there is a pending sale to a buyer. So there's a lot of exigent circumstances for the court to advance it. So our hope is that we can proceed that way without having to have the county spend any unnecessary time or funds to get this sorted out.
Okay, thank you. If I ask County Council, can we go ahead with this action given the status of the property?
Yes, my thought is that this authorizes settlement, either accepting the formal eminent domain or accept settlement short of that with that delegated power to staff.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from board members? Okay, Mr. Kennedy?
So move.
Second.
Vote. Thank you and good luck.
Unanimous vote. Okay, item 49 are the resolutions of necessity authorizing eminent domain action to acquire real property for the Elk Grove Florin widening project, Elder Creek to Florin Road. There are 9 separate property owners, and so we will need to take 9 separate motions to adopt these resolutions, if it so please the board. Property owner number 1 is Keith Jarrett, located at 7...
Are you going to read all 9 of them and then read them again?
No, I'll just do property
Okay, well,
owner
let's have
number
an
1.
explanation, staff explanation first, and then you can read them.
Okay, no problem.
All right.
Good morning again. I'm going to introduce this item, which recommends a board approval for a resolution of necessity authorizing eminent domain action to acquire real property interests on 9 properties for the Department of Transportation Elk Grove-Florin Road Widening Project. This project will widen the existing roadway and reconstruct the existing pavement section as necessary to accommodate a total of 4 traffic lanes, 2 lanes in each direction, with a fully landscaped center median. There will also be bike lanes installed on Elk Grove-Florin Road, as well as ADA modifications at the intersection of Elk Grove-Florin Road and Florin Road. The resolutions of necessity before you today are for the acquisitions of easements for public roadway and public utilities, easement for public utilities and public facilities, and easements for temporary construction required for this project. The 9 properties that are affected by the RONs are all located on or adjacent to Elk Grove-Florin Road and or Florin Road, and are described in the list of properties, which is attachment 2 of your board documents. County staff had made numerous contacts over about the last 18 to 20 months with the respective owners beginning back in August in 2016, and those are also outlined in your board documents in attachment 3. The county obtained an appraisal from an independent appraiser for each of the properties and presented offers to the property owners for the purchase of the easements I just mentioned. We did just within the past week come to agreement with the Shiloh Baptist Church, which is property number 4, so that property can actually be dropped from the list, as we do have signed documents and funded escrow on that property. However, to date, there are no executed purchase agreements on the other 8 properties. The notices of intention to seek approval for the resolution of necessity were mailed to the property owners by registered mail at least 15 days before today's hearing. And if you have any questions regarding the project or any of the properties, I have staff here to address those.
Thank you. I don't have any speaker requests. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak against the procedure so far? Okay. Any questions from board members? Yep. Seeing none?
Yep.
Oh, Mr. Natoli?
Yes. I know you're going to go down through these as you call them, but there was late correspondence received, I believe, yesterday on, I think, number 2 from EGF Holdings relative. I don't know if you saw that, Mike. I was just looking through my material here. I know I saw it last night. It came through to board members from Mr. Caen. Was that received?
I was not aware of that.
That, again, they don't agree with the price. They don't object to the project. They support the project of widening road, but there was, obviously it comes down to price, and I don't know whether they're represented here today or not, but there was correspondence on that one. I'll have my office bring it down. So I didn't know if that was perceived by you or not.
I have not seen that. Okay. And neither have the real estate staff, so we were unaware of that.
Okay. And I just wanted to ask, as you go down through these, because there was, I know, multiple attempts in some cases, some by phone, some by personal interaction. Obviously price is mentioned in a number of these as being a compounding factor. But I wanted to, if I could, on 2 of them, on 8 and 9, which are upstream on Elk Grove-Florin Road, and actually in Mr. Kennedy's district, but there was a discussion about a wall, an additional wall offer, but it sounded to me like the representation was made back in March that if, and speaking with, I guess in this case, the sister as described here, that we, the county, needed to know from the property owner what their view was, or they might miss that opportunity. It seems to me that if a wall makes sense, again, some of these have small residences that have been there for many, many years. The widening will obviously impact the frontage of those properties, and in that upstream location, I believe it's, at least there's 1 residence there, if not 2. And so I guess I'm curious as to how we, in our conversations represent that, well, here's the deal, but, the wall might make it into here, but if you don't sign, then the wall maybe goes away. Now, obviously, you're talking about compensation and potentially mitigation for impacts, even though there might not be mitigation under the environmental document. So I guess I'm curious about that and, how that was represented. It is described here as you may miss that opportunity, this additional opportunity, and there's another conversation somewhere in one of these about bushes. Well, we'll have to see whether the bushes those are, again, I've been doing this long enough from this side of the dais to know that those are small items when it comes to trying to work with property owners who are impacted by, particularly if they have residences and homes there that, whether they live there or they have rentals or whatever. And so I guess I'm kind of curious as to, in this process, if somebody could tell me about walls and shrubbery and so forth, why, again, that may not be the underlying issue that is reason why we're not getting some agreement, but I want to know about that as we go out and talk with folks.
All right, well. And I can have the engineers speak to that. Generally, and the real estate staff correspond, have these conversations with the homeowners, and they make counter offers, whether it's ask for privacy or sound walls, or we have a tree that's been in the family for 40 years and we don't want that one cut down, is we can go back to the engineers, and they usually are pretty accommodating about trying to work around those aspects, and that's just part of the conversation that gets into the agreement, whether it's additional compensation or if we agree to do the sound walls, move shrubbery, or whatever the case may be. Is I think staff is
Don, I would just say, we went through this on Hazel Avenue and Fair Oaks Boulevard recently with a multitude of properties, and when there was something important like that, they always worked around it with the individual property owner.
Right, I would agree with you. They have, and again, if I just make one other reference here, I guess the one I was asking about, where in the earlier communication it said, we were advised that if the easements are obtained by eminent domain, excuse me, the property owner would not get the additional wall or compensation to build a wall. So how do we know that, if we're trying to reach settlement, that in an eminent domain action that you wouldn't do that? How can that be? And this is on page 2 of 2 of owner contact number 8, and it was the same with number 9. And I agree with Ms. Peters. Again, we went through many years of work on Hazel, bought entire homes and so forth. But how is it that we say you might miss the opportunity later on, but we come out of the chute and tell them that take the deal or you're not going to get any wall if we go to eminent domain, and you're now asking us to execute the resolution of necessity. So I guess I need to kind of understand that. I recognize we do work with folks, and again, this is not a criticism of real estate or DOT, but I know it's a negotiation. On the other hand, if we tell somebody something, it needs to reflect, I think, the rightful approach that we're going to take on this. So. Okay, maybe Steve or somebody. I don't want to type a lot down, but I am curious about that because that is reflected in these 2 reports. So,
Steve White, Department of Transportation, Madam Chair, members of the board. In general, a sound wall screening, that type of thing, would be part of a negotiated settlement. I wasn't the negotiator as DOT. We can't negotiate with the property owners, but with eminent domain, they will eventually get their day in court if it goes the distance, and the talk will be compensation. Oftentimes, their day in court would be after construction of the project is complete. So in that regard, there'd be no opportunity for us to incorporate something in the project if it goes the distance and ends up going to trial. So in that regard, that would be...
So that's where the missed opportunity would occur?
Exactly.
Okay, again, the Hazel Avenue example where I know, again, I've traveled that and seen where driveway openings were kept and worked around trees and so forth. So, all right, thanks.
Okay, any other questions? Then we need to go through these one at a time, Madam Clerk?
Yes.
And just the board members know you have to vote on eight times on this issue.
And I would like clarification for item property owner number 4, Shiloh Baptist Church. Should we drop that officially to have a motion? Okay. So you'll have 9 separate votes. For property owner number 1, this is Keith Jarrett, located at 7504 Elk Grove, Florin Road. The APN number is 065-0070-022.
Chair will move.
Second.
Unanimous vote. Property owner number 2 is EGF Holdings Limited Liability Company, located at 7291 Elk Grove, Florin Road. APN number 065-0051-045.
Okay, I'll move the item.
Second.
Please vote.
Unanimous vote. Property owner number 3 is Wan Suk O and Hee Suk O and Jun Mo O and Ji Sil O, trustees of the O Revocable Living Trust Agreement dated December 2nd, 2008, located approximately 180 feet easterly from the southeast corner of Florin Road and Elk Grove Florin Road on Florin Road, APN number 065-0051-021.
Move it.
Second.
And there's no one here that wish to speak to this?
I've already asked.
Okay, I just was curious. All right.
Unanimous vote. And for item number, property owner 4, I need a motion to drop Shiloh Baptist Church located at 8815 Florin Road, APN number 0640072-039.
So moved.
Second. Please vote.
Unanimous vote. Property owner 5, Don Jack Lee, located at 8865 Florin Road, APN number 0640072-008.
So moved.
Please vote.
Unanimous vote. Property number 6, Kamaljit Singh Brar, Gurpreet Singh, Diljit S. Kamboj, and Mandeep S. Gurm, located at 8899 Florin Road, APN number 0640072-019.
So moved.
Second.
Please vote.
Unanimous vote. Number 7, Michael F. Ramirez, located at 7630 Elk Grove Florin Road, APN number 1150040-051.
So moved.
Second. Please vote.
Unanimous vote. And property 8, Hung Nguyen, located at 7264 Elk Grove Florin Road, APN 0650042-012.
So moved.
Second. Please vote.
Unanimous vote. And then your final property, number 9, Hung Nguyen, located at 7260 Elk Grove Florin Road, APN 0650042-011.
So moved.
Second. Please vote.
Unanimous vote. And that concludes your properties for this item.
Okay. Thank you.
Item 50 is the Sacramento Sheriff's Department Countywide Homeless Outreach Team presentation.
I'd like to call Sergeant Bland and Lieutenant Dutra.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board.
morning.
We just wanted to thank you for this opportunity to be able to present our homeless outreach project to you guys today. Before I get started with introductions, I think it is worth noting that there are 17 members of our homeless outreach team for the county, and all but one that had a pre-planned vacation was able to attend today. So that is a kind of a assurance or indicative of their dedication to duty, and thank you for all the hard work that you've done. My name is Lieutenant Steve Dutra. I'm the Assistant Commander of our North Station for the Sacramento County Sheriff's Department. I'm also the manager for the homeless outreach team, and I provide management oversight. Next to me is Sergeant Tom Bland, who is the supervisor of the homeless outreach team. And I'd also like to make one more introduction. We have Sacramento State University Dr. Arturo Bianchi, who is a member of our grant team for us for our North Homeless Grant, which you'll hear about in a minute.
Madam Chair, members of the board, thank you so much for having us here. We really appreciate it. We kind of want to go into what our team does. For the homeless outreach team, our mission is simple. It's a service-oriented policing strategy, and that's a service-based policing model that focuses on engaging homeless subjects with resources, along with enforcement when necessary, to bring about a positive change in a homeless individual or homeless family's life. I have a picture here of one of my superstars on my team, Jim Knack. This is indicative of what we're out there doing. We're out there trying to make connections with homeless individuals, homeless people that are on the streets, and connecting them with services. That is our mission. How are we going to do this? What is our goal of our team? Well, The first goal is ongoing personal contact between our HOT officers and homeless individuals so that we can increase trust and engender trust with those individuals and provide referrals to our service providers. The second thing is development of multi-agency collaborations and partnerships so that we can bring more programs and more services to the people that we're trying to assist. One of the last things is we're going to work very, very closely with our local outreach organizations to coordinate housing, employment, medical, mental health services for homeless individuals and families. And the last thing that we're going to focus on is enforcement of law violations. And some examples of that are trespassing, illegal camping, public intoxication, aggressive, or some of the prohibited panhandling sections that you've adopted. We like to say that we want to focus on the 3 E's. This is something that I give to my team, and this is what I want them to do on each and every day. And those 3 E's are education. Education of homeless individuals on what services are available through the local continuum of care in our county. The second one is building a rapport and in providing encouragement to homeless individuals upon every contact with them to accept services to make a positive change in their life. The third one is to take enforcement action when education and encouragement have failed or if the situation dictates that immediate action. My guys are supposed to utilize outside the box, innovative approaches in trying to connect people with services, and I'll tell you, they do an outstanding job doing that.
Okay, the HOT staffing model that we've deployed for the entire county is a 14 deputy sheriff team assigned to the homeless outreach team. The breakdown is we have 6 deputy sheriffs assigned to the North Division, 4 assigned to Central Division, 2 officers assigned to the Rancho Cordova Police Department, and 2 officers assigned to the Work Release Division. And those officers at Work Release are specifically to help with debris cleanup and camp cleanups, which we'll talk about in a minute. 1 sheriff supervisor, which is Sergeant Bland, myself, Sheriff's Lieutenant, Assistant Commander of North Division, and most importantly, the new model allows for 7-day-a-week coverage. We basically have a team. It's set up as the team policing model where we have an overlap day on a Wednesday. So half of the team has Saturday, Sunday, Monday. The other team has Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Wednesday is our day when we can work team projects for overlap. In addition to the full-time officers that work on the HOT team, we also have a Strategies and Police Innovation Grant, which is a grant from the Bureau of Assistance, BJA, Bureau of Justice Assistance. We applied for this grant approximately 2 years ago. We were one of 6 agencies in the United States to receive the grant. Like I said, it was funded in 2016. So this grant is an innovative way of having partnerships with academic research, which is our partner with Sacramento State University, and then also Sacramento Steps Forward, who does homeless navigation for us, and we work on our intelligence-led policing model. We work on specific hotspots of homelessness within the community. The grant team is set up with 3 on-call deputy sheriffs. They're part-time retired annuitants. Each of these annuitants has over 25 years of experience. They've held a variety of different jobs, detectives, SWAT, patrol, and so they know how to talk to people. We basically pick the right people for the right spots for that particular position. In addition, I've already talked about researchers from Sacramento State University, and then a social service navigator from Sacramento Steps Forward.
So when we talk about the homelessness problem, many times it can feel completely overwhelming. So we always ask this question, where do you start? And we like to put this map up there. This is developed by our intelligence operations group. Every one of those red dots represents a call for service that was homeless related. In 6-month time period in the SST jurisdiction, we had 15,378 calls for service between July 1, 2017 and December 31st, 2017. 15,000 calls. So where do you start? How do you deploy your resources? It's something we had to look at very closely, and it's something that we developed in our SPI grant, and we have a strategy that is very, very effective. Deployment of our HOT officers is guided by our intelligence-led policing model. Many of you have heard that is a model that the Sheriff's Department follows, where we use intelligence-based information in our deployment of our resources. So our hotspot areas, when I talk about a hotspot, that is an area that is statistically defined as an increased area of homeless-related calls for service and homeless-related activity. Those hotspots are determined by our intelligence operations group and also by our researchers at Sac State. All of my officers are assigned an area of responsibility and an individual hotspot so that they can provide a sense of ownership in that area and also accountability for their each individual areas. So when I say it was very, very effective, I have actual numbers to back that up. So this is something we developed with our grant team to develop this hotspot information. This is a graph that was developed by our partners at Sac State. And if you'll see this graph right here, or this chart, if you look down in the kind of middle section of it, you'll see some dark blue rectangles, and then around that a little bit purple, and then out of that a little bit lighter and light blue. So what that was those two dark rectangles, those were our target zones. Those were our hot spots that were developed based upon this statistical information. The area around that, the light blue, is what we called the area surrounding it, the adjacent areas, as we called it. In academic research, our hotspots, they'd known it as a treatment zone. And then everything else in yellow, the rest of the North County, was considered a control group. So we worked this area, it was the Howard Arden area and the Watt and El Camino area. We worked that for approximately 1 year with the grant team. And we did a study with our researchers to see what was the effectiveness of our units in that area. So when we look at it, so in 2016, we had a 26.2% increase in our treatment area over the course of from February to November of 2016. In 2017, when we actively started working that area, we had a 14.6% decrease in homeless-related calls for service in the same area. Now, what we didn't want to do was just work on displacement. It's really easy just to push the problem out to another area. That is not going to be effective use of our resources, and it doesn't solve any problems. So if you look at the next column, if you look at the adjacent area in 2017, we actually saw a decrease in that area as well. So we saw a 14% decrease in the treatment, 10% decrease in the adjacent, and a 3.9% overall in the control areas, whereas the previous year on the same time period we saw increases across the board. So that showed us that our focusing on a hotspot was not just pushing the problem to the neighboring areas. This is a map that we have that our intelligence operations group developed for my team, and that shows we run these numbers about every 3 months. We look at homeless-related calls for service, and we identify hotspots, areas that are statistically defined as an increased area of homeless-related calls for service. These are a couple in Supervisor Frost and Supervisor Peters districts that we focus on. Every SSD patrol district has hotspots, and that encompasses every one of your supervisory districts. So some of the statistics that we're generating, we want to keep track of what we're doing, what my team is doing. So from January 10th, which is the day that my team went full-time live with the increased funding that you granted to us, which we're very much appreciative of, through the end of April, this is what we've been able to do statistically wise. 943 community complaints resolved. That's people that are calling my hot team saying I have an issue here. 1,500 self-initiated contacts. That's my officers going out and contacting an individual on their own. 783 camps posted for removal. 750 camps cleaned. 190 tons of garbage and waste removed from our county streets. 661 shopping carts were recovered at a value of $198,000 returned to our local merchants. Down to the bottom, the one that I really wanted to highlight, 235 referrals to social service agencies and follow-ups. That means 235 times that we have referred someone to one of our partners and tried to get them connected into services to better their situation.
So one of the things I did want to point out also is that the strategy that we're utilizing for the SPI, the grant officers, we're using for the full-time officers too in those individual districts. This is a photograph of our work release cleanup camp. This is a camp that we wanted to kind of show pictures worth 1,000 words, so we wanted to show kind of the before and the after. And if you remember on the previous slide, it said that from January to April, the team has removed 190 tons of garbage. So there's the before, this is kind of what it looks like afterwards. There's a dramatic improvement in the way that the cleanup happened, and more importantly, we've developed a relationship. We have a driver that's assigned through County Waste Management. Myself and Sergeant Bland have met with the bosses over there, and we have established a relationship. And so what our goal is to, when these camp cleanups are done, is to get them cleaned up in a timely manner. That way they don't become rummaged through, because if we leave the pile of trash there, what happens is a couple days later they end up coming back and grabbing their stuff. One of the things that we've implemented with our grant is each of the officers that are on the HOT team have a iPhone application that we purchased through a company called Terrago Technologies. So basically what it does is we didn't have a way of capturing surveys in the field. So what we did is we purchased an iPhone application. Each of the officers, like I said, has the application on their phone. When they come in contact with a homeless individual, they can ask a series of about 15 questions. And also take their photograph, which geocodes the location of contact. And that information is transferred into a database or a Splunk dashboard that we can look at later. Our commanders can look at it, and also Sacramento State University can analyze the data to come out with custom-tailored outcomes for homeless individuals. Some of the examples of the questions that we asked, I'm not going to list all 15 of them here, just 2 examples so you know, is one of the things we ask is, are you a veteran? And what we've done is we've captured, there's approximately 109 people that said that they're veterans, so we've gone back, reproduced a list from that system, and then we've had officers on our team check with veterans assistance to determine who's eligible for benefits. And then what happens is Sergeant Bland assigns those individuals to the officers in their specific area, and we say go contact them and try and get them plugged into services. Another question that we ask is, would you accept housing if it was available for you right now? Here's an example of the dashboard that it's just one screen. There's about 5 different layers of the screen, but basically what it does is it breaks down all the questions. You can hover over that count by status. It talks about probation. People that we run into that have warrants are sexual offenders and PCRS. And back in March of 2016, March 2018, excuse me. Myself, Sergeant Bland, Terrago Technologies went to Kansas City, Missouri, and we were awarded a Smart 50 award. And so basically what they do is they pick 50 different awards and recognize technology on a global level.
So I wanted to highlight some of the service-oriented policing. When I say service-oriented, we really want to highlight that because it truly is trying to deliver service to the individuals that we're contacting. Some of the successes that we wanted to highlight is Department of Motor Vehicles. Having an ID for an individual is the gateway to many services. You have to have an ID to get a job, to rent an apartment, to receive aid. So how are we going to get them into that? Many people, they have a very hard time getting to the DMV, waiting in line like many people would have to for the time. Also, it costs money. So we have streamlined that process. We have waivers for fee waivers, and we have walked people through the whole DMV process to help them get IDs. Some of the things we've done is we've partnered with a local employment agency to help individuals that are actively looking for work and want to work. We've gotten them jobs. We've gotten multiple people good part and full-time in employment. With Door Hanger Company, we have a couple that we're working temp up at Thunder Valley. Just if we can find someone that is wanting to work, we're going to put them in with someone that will get them a job. We were thinking about how does that work? How can we make people more successful in an employment service? And one of the things that we started thinking about was, well, if you've been living on the street and you don't have access to, regular hair care and things like that, maybe if we were able to partner with someone to get them haircuts. So when my deputies went to a local beauty college and said, hey, this is what we need. How can we partner with you? And they said, you know what? You would identify individuals and bring them here, and our students will cut their hair for free. Get them presentable for that resume, or excuse me, for that interview. So we started thinking about, well, okay, you need to have a resume. You need to have interview skills. Many people don't have those kind of skills. We've all been through interview processes. How can we impart our knowledge to them? So our deputies work with those individuals. Sorry, I keep punching that with my hand. Several of my deputies work with those individuals all the time, mentor them on how to be successful in an interview. We had an employment agency that was helping do free resumes for individuals that were looking for work. And approximately at this point, 60 individuals that we have transported and enrolled in residential substance abuse treatment facilities that are willing to go there and would like to get clean and sober. And we are absolutely able to find them a place. And we become the black and white taxi at that point. We were willing to transport them there, get them their belongings there so they can be successful in their transition. One of the things that I'm really, really excited to bring to you today is something that we just did last month, and it's what we call Project Hope. HOPE stands for the Homeless Outreach Partnership Event. This is the brainchild of one of my deputies, Jim Knack. He's hiding back there. He wants to hide. He came up with this idea, and I want to give him full credit for this. What we were looking at was well, how do we bring services to the neighborhoods? You know, we have a lot of county agencies and a lot of private sector agencies that offer services, but how do we get them to individuals? So what we did is we set up the Project Hope event. We brought together over 20 different community and government organizations and what we call a one-stop shop type of event. This is specifically designed to address homelessness on the neighborhood level, not as a big county-wide, but we really focused it into a specific neighborhood. Our first event last month was at Fair Oaks and Marconi in Supervisor Peters' district, and it was very, very, very successful. Some of our Project Hope partners that we brought out with us were the Department of Human Assistance, California Department of Motor Vehicles. They brought out their printers and their cameras, and they were giving out IDs right there on site. Volunteers of America was there for veteran help. Sacramento Veteran Stand Down was there for veterans. We had Sacramento Self-Help Housing. Elica Health Centers came out with their mobile health care van for health screenings and also veterinary care. We had the Salvation Army there providing food and supplies for homeless individuals. We had Paul Mitchell Beauty School come out, and they were doing haircuts along with a couple other local businesses, Resurrection and Purple Rain, doing haircuts right there on site. We had Walmart who donated a lot of supplies and volunteers to the event to make it successful. We had Weave out there, and our Carmichael Hart was there as well. I have to say this was an extremely successful event. We had about 130 individuals that we were able to transport in or came in on their own, and all of them were able to connect with the services they need to try and make a positive change. Some of the pictures that I thought I'd share with some of you, some individuals getting haircuts and just the way we had it set up. I wanted to let you know that our first event was in Supervisor Peters' district, and it was such a success, we're going to take it on the road now. We're going to move it around. We have it planned for county-wide. We're going to move it to each one of your districts in the future. The next one is going to be in the North Highlands Antelope area, and then after the summer, we're going to move it down to the Rancho Cordova area, and then down to our central division, which is the Oak Park area. So we're going to move this around. We have commitments from all of our partners to attend all of these, and in fact, we've got a lot more. I actually was recently contacted by Department of Health Services, and they said, well, we want our community health nurses to get in on this, do vaccinations. So just all sorts of ideas we've got going on with this, and so it's really, really successful, and I want to give Jim Knack great credit for putting this together, so I appreciate it. So I can stand up here, Lieutenant Dutra can stand up here, and we can talk all we want, and it's just a presentation. But we wanted to share you or leave you with one last thing, a success story. So I wanted to highlight the Cost family. The Cost family is a family that we encountered at Watt and El Camino. They were out there panhandling with their child on the busy street corner, and they were living out of their car. The Cost family had some income that they were receiving, but they weren't able to manage it very well, and they would live in hotels for about a week, and then they would be back in their car. So when we encountered them, we tried to figure out what can we do to help this family. My officers took them, walked them through the whole process of finding a place to live, actually identified a place, an apartment complex that was willing to take them in, walked them through the entire process of getting in there and getting into a stable home. But I can talk all I want. I want to show you a video. KCRA came out and did a video and interviewed them themselves, the Cost family. So if we can go ahead and play that.
And this is how our bathroom is. For Jane, Anthony, and their son, it's the final night of a long, uncertain struggle. What does a home mean to you? Where I could live and eat food and sleep. overcoming 15 months of homelessness in Sacramento County thanks to a chance encounter.
Keep trying and you keep trying and you just feel like you're like against a wall and there's nowhere to go.
The parents and their young son were panhandling here off Watt and El Camino Avenues. That's technically a crime, but when Sacramento sheriffs approached the family, they offered them an opportunity.
I thought, oh, I'm going to jail. My son's going to CPS.
Instead, the family is benefiting from Sacramento Sheriff's new approach to solving homelessness.
Was there a learning curve?
Absolutely. This is completely out of our scope.
Starting an outreach program among the first in the country to find stability.
Our guys are out there in the field learning new things every day of how they can connect people to services and how that they can bring folks in out of their situation and put them into a better situation.
Putting the family in a motel while searching for a permanent foundation.
I always had the impression that cops were mean and they want to take your kids when you're, out here. For them to walk us through their program and help us, to me, that was like, wow.
Jane, Anthony, and their son now moving into a supportive community. Of the more than 600 apartments here at Logan Park, more than half of the residents are the result of homeless outreach programs.
Why is that important?
Well, somebody's got to care.
From instability on the streets to a new chapter of hope.
Really want to applaud the Sheriff's Department for having the courage to give this a shot.
I didn't know that there was a lot of people in Sacramento that really cares.
Vicki Gonzalez, KCRA 3 News.
So that concludes our presentation. We would be happy to answer any questions that you might have of us.
Supervisor Serna has a question.
Great, thank you. First of all, Sergeant, I want to thank you and your whole team. Last year we had a lot of healthy debate and sharing of ideas around here in terms of how to expand resources to try and address a very complicated, probably the most complicated subject that we're asked to deal with as a local government, whether it be the Sheriff's Department, regional parks, the Board of Supervisors. And it really was my hope as someone who initiated that discussion in a budgetary context that we would see these types of results. And it's actually very gratifying to see that the results came, quite frankly, a little swifter than I expected. And you'll recall that we had a lot of discussion about the prospect of impacts that might be squeezed out from the parkway if we had more enforcement of the camping ban in the parkway and more maintenance activity in the parkway. And that was a legitimate concern expressed by some of my colleagues. So it really is rewarding to see the kind of work that you're doing, not just to address the impacts associated with homelessness, but as was just attested to through the video, really expressing kind of the compassionate side of what you do and how you do it, trying to make sure that families and individuals get the assistance they need. So my hat's off to you and your whole team. This is excellent news. Keep up the great work, and let's not be shy about letting our community know what the men and women of the Sheriff's Department are doing in terms of this exemplary work.
Definitely. Thank you.
Supervisor Frost?
Sergeant Bland and Lieutenant Itis and all of you, I want to first congratulate you on the Smart 50 and also Terrago. It's my understanding this isn't just an award that involved police agencies. This was up against other municipal, everyone and everything. So it was a big deal. And you just said global. I was thinking national. So this was global?
Yes, ma'am.
There were awardees there from Canada.
There was a couple from India. I believe there was one from England. It is a global award ceremony, yes.
So congratulations on that accomplishment. And I also wanted to acknowledge and thank you. I know my office has spoken very highly of your HOT team and the way you have helped us in managing our call-ins or complaints or issues. You guys are on it, and you're always rapid response and caring, and I want you to know that we appreciate how you help us help our constituents and the work that you're doing. And I also wanted to express that I've been approached, and I know my chief of staff has also been approached by other agencies, fire, Rancho Cordova, other agencies that have said, oh my, that's so exciting what they're doing. I wish we could partner or find a way that we could expand that program. So I'm hoping that we can find a way to expand your funding or find other grants or whatever we have to do to support what you're doing, because you're obviously getting results. And then in conclusion, I wanted to ask a question, because you threw out that number, 198.3 on tonnage of garbage that was picked up. I have a question relating to, was that the parks and the communities, or was that just the communities and not the parks? Because that's, I'm hearing we're picking up 21 tons a week in the parks. Was this just in the neighborhoods?
No, ma'am, that's just in the neighborhoods with my hot team along with my work release crews. That does not include the parks numbers.
And that was in 4 months,
yes,
which
ma'am.
is about 50 tons a month or something
Roughly,
like
yes, ma'am.
50,000 tons a month. So
Yeah, Nav, you ought to be keeping track of all the garbage picked up by all the entities in
I know. I mean,
in the county. Really, that'd be very interesting to know.
Will do.
that tells me that you're picking up almost as much, or around the same as what's going on the Parkway, which is a lot considering the amount of resources that you have. So thank you for all you're doing. Congratulations on your recognition. It's well deserved.
Thank you, ma'am.
Supervisor Kennedy?
Just going to repeat what's already been said, or I'm not going to repeat what's already been said, but I will tell you, I didn't need your presentation to know it's working, because I hear it's working from the community. I'm hearing particularly from the P-bids. I remember the first call I got was when someone from a P-bid called me up and said, I can't say enough that I really appreciate all your hot deputies, and I thought that's a little inappropriate.
I asked them about that when they named it.
But
there's a calendar coming out, isn't there?
The work and
let's not get too carried away on this one.
The proof is in the pudding. You guys are doing a great work. No good deed goes unpunished, so we're already talking about expansion. But keep it up, and thank you very much for your efforts.
Thank you, sir.
Supervisor Natoli?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I'd certainly like to express my thanks as well, and want to note that I share this with Nav after we had a community meeting, actually an annual homeowners meeting with the Butterfield Riviera East Community Association, and I know that Officer Matranga and Officer Cater and others were there, along with our parks representative of county parks and Cordova Rec and Park District, community prosecutor, code enforcement, and others. And I think with over 100 people in the room, it was evident, and again, I want to thank the officers who were there that evening, because again, I think their response certainly to some of the misunderstandings about what it was we were doing or not doing. But it was clear, because actually some people pulled their comments later in the meeting that were ready to, certainly let me know, but let everybody else in the panel know about what they felt, wasn't being done. And I think again, to what Supervisor Kennedy said, the proof is in the pudding, in that the results, both with the hot team, but also with all the partners. And I want to just say that I thought it was very, very, very useful, but I think it was very emblematic of the coordinated approach, the far better coordination and collaboration that's going on to help people, certainly that you're making contact with in response to calls or in the initiated contacts, but also recognizing that residents, homeowners, business owners are certainly seeing the evidence of that multidisciplinary approach. Because again, your officers that evening were very clear that it's not just the police contact and certainly the approach that can be taken if there needs to be some enforcement action, but it's the things you pointed out in your presentation, Lieutenant Dutra and Sergeant Bland, that where you go in, you make the contact, you respond to the call, But you also have the mental health folks that do the ride-alongs with our, the outreach teams that are the mobile outreach teams that were the company officers, both, sheriffs, but also I think Rancho Cordova Police, Citrus Heights Police, and City Police. But it is making an impact, and I think the response where officers, again, I say this to all the folks in the audience here, gave out their numbers, and you could clearly see that the coordination with code enforcement, with community prosecutor, with county parks, with Rancho Cordova Park District, I'm sure with others throughout the county, is beginning to show a real net effect. And again, I mean, obviously you had the pilot that had been initiated before. Again, the funding came through from the board action. And I also want to just acknowledge, too, because I think the credit was being shared. And your officers, obviously, we're talking about not only the partners, but action that we're taking certainly in the public realm with a lot of input, and Supervisor Serna referenced that in his comments. And so I think that what people are seeing is that the dollars that are being invested, and I made very clear that, there was choices made by this board, both from the standpoint of the HOT team and working with parks and, solid waste and others, code enforcement, animal care, but also on the social service side of housing, of helping families and individuals get the assistance they need. It's over an $11 million annual commitment. But that, these choices that were made are hopefully going to show results, and that they are showing results. And I just want to say thanks to all of you folks in the field for working with your community partners. And I think what people are seeing is in their neighborhoods throughout this county, obviously there continues to be stressors, and there continues to be issues to deal with, but they're actually seeing results, and we're helping people along the way. But we're also, I think, reinstilling in homeowners and property owners and business owners and visitors to our community that this community cares. It cares about the people, whatever their walk in life, but also that we're willing to invest significantly in the actions that it takes to deal with a very complicated and complex problem on a daily basis. And I think the 7-day-a-week coverage, again, something we discussed in these chambers some months ago, makes a difference too, because of those gaps, and you got the overlap certainly with your force here, but also I think with parks and with solid waste and others, it's making a significant difference. And I want to just say thank you on behalf of a grateful community. It was very evident in that room the other evening that folks got the sense of it. Folks were clear about the explanation, but also about the role and the approach that was being taken. I just wanted to make one other note, because my understanding was that we're doing some days 20 to 25 tons of debris in the parkway. Was it a day or is it a week? I was understanding it was a day.
I believe it does.
I heard a day.
There was one day that we picked that much.
Oh, because I've heard people say that it was daily. So, but anyway, it's a lot of garbage that needs to be picked up and disposed of. But I think the human element here certainly is the focus, and I want to thank you for your leadership and all of you for your good work.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ditto. I wanted to thank you too, and all the officers here for their work. It's not what I anticipated would be the usual duties of a sheriff's deputy, and so it's great to have you step out and think outside of the box. The award, very well deserved. We can all be very proud of that. I think an important reason for you to come today was often here we don't get to hear the results of the budget decisions we make, and it was such a good story that I think it's really important for us all to hear that. I had the opportunity to attend the HOPE meeting event, and it was amazing. All the groups that were there with all their tents in the surround, people were serving food, getting the IDs. Elica Health was there doing health checkups as it says it was. And it was all flowing very smoothly, and the deputies, the vans were transporting people from their usual locations into the event and back to the event. And so I think everyone will be happy to have one in their district. It was, particularly the hair cutters, I think were very brave. Because of how special this moment was, I did have some certificates prepared for your deputies. If you have time to receive them, that'd be great.
Absolutely, ma'am.
And maybe we could all get a picture afterwards. I also wanted to say, I was telling some people at an event about it, and then Nicole Gehring from the Associated Builders Association said, well, we've got jobs for those people, have them call me.
Wonderful. I will take
So,
any resource I can
yeah.
get. Perfect.
Would you like to have everyone come forward individually?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that'd be great. Well, our first is Lieutenant Dutra. Thank you. Thank you. And then Sergeant Bland, of
Thank you,
course.
ma'am. Appreciate it.
And then all of you sitting there looking like you don't want to come up here.
Sergeant Knapp does it, you know that. He's trying to sit in the back row out there.
Okay, so get ready to get
Sergeant
up. Kai Apple. Kyle, sorry. And then Zahim Buksha.
We call him Z.
Okay. Z, come forward. There you go. Thank you. And then Andrew Cater. Z. Nice to meet you. Timothy Chan and Matthew Chesterman. Andrew?
Don't go too far away. We're going to want to do a photo.
Yeah, we want a photo, so don't sit down. Timothy Chan, Matthew Chesterman. Okay. Deputy Chan, thank you so much. Then Kevin He. Matthew? James Nackey and Hai Lee. Where's Kevin? Hey, Kevin.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. David Lee, Robert Puga. Matt? There you are.
That's Jim Knapp, right?
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Cool.
Thank you. Lee, yes. Thank you very much. Thomas Purser, Kiana Rowe, Matthew Tallman, and Timothy Yee. So yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for your work. Thank you. Oh, you must be Kiana.
Yes, I'm a girl.
Matthew? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And then I have Deputy Keith Biggers, Paul Biondi, and Jeff Wright.
Deputy Biondi was unable to be here today.
Okay. Hi, thank you very much. Good work. And Jeff Wright.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And can you get this
yes,
to?
yes, ma'am.
Okay, so thank you all. If the members of the board want to come down and get the pictures taken, if you can move back into the well a little bit, that's, so we can keep the wide angle off.
Andy and I are always over in the back.
Hey there. This is good. It's like I could get you all in here. He gets home. We'll let him do his thing, right?
There we go. Sarge up. Stop trying to make yourself over here. There you go. You right there. You two. Feet up. Chin up as well. Okay. Everybody looks good right here.
Okay, here. Okay, my camera right here on 3. 1, 2. One more. Here we go. 1, 2. One last one. 1, 2. Thank you.
Elton, did you grab this? Did you grab my binder? That's right.
All right.
Okay.
Item 51, you are acting as the Sacramento County Water Agency. This is the Recycled Water Implementation Plans Workshop.
Good morning, Madam Chair and ladies and gentlemen of the board.
Morning.
My name is Mike Grinstead. I'm a senior civil engineer with the Sacramento County Water Agency, and I'm here today to talk to you about the Zone 40 Recycled Water Feasibility Study implementation. First, I'll talk to you a little bit about the Sacramento County Water Agency Recycled Water Policy. This is a policy that you all approved in October. We've expanded on that policy and put together some implementation plans for 3 prongs of the policy. It's a 5-prong policy, but 3 we move into a little bit further. The limited expansion of the existing system, the in-the-river swap portion, and the South County Agriculture and Habitat Lands Recycled Water Program, which we'll call the South County Ag Program from here on out. So here's the policy. This policy was approved on October 17th, 2017. And you'll see the 5 prongs up here. The 3 check-marked prongs are things that we just discussed we're going to go into a little bit further. There's 2 pieces of the policy that we're not going to expand on, and I'd like to explain that now. The first bullet there says to continue with the current Phase 1 and Phase 2 recycled water delivery strategy in conjunction with the construction of the Echo Water project. Phase 1 area, that's the area down in Elk Grove that already receives recycled water. We have a partnership with Regional SAN in order to send recycled water there. In the Phase 2 area, we're moving forward with implementation in that area. We're partnering with Regional SAN, and once the Echo Water project is complete, tertiary treated recycled water will be available for that area, and we'll be able to move forward on that area.
Could I just ask a question, Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Michael, not to interrupt your presentation, I want to ask on that Phase 2 of that, then are we all plumbed in? I mean, you have transmission lines, but do you have distribution then to parks and schools? Are those all connections ready to be made? I know you kept potable water in those lines, so we wouldn't have any degradation of the lines themselves, at least in some cases. But are we plumbed in those areas, at Laguna Ridge and the areas that are, I guess, probably south of Elko Boulevard, down to roughly Bilby? So is plumbing in?
That's a real good question. So the distribution system is mostly in. So in the areas that have built out, the distribution system is there.
It is?
Well,
Okay.
It is there.
Okay.
What we lack is a transmission line, and we're hoping to take advantage of the South County Ag transmission line as it comes down Franklin in order to be able to deliver recycled water there. We also need a little bit more infrastructure in terms of tanks and booster pumps. But right now, the area is primed with potable water.
Okay, so there's separate plumbing to, say, Franklin High School and parks that are there, Bartholomew Park, I just referenced those. Those are large facilities, 50-acre park, high school sites. So all of those sites, those fields, there is plumbing in the streets, say down Poppy Ridge Road.
Yes, yes.
That would then, recognize that Franklin would be the main transmission. So that's all been plumbed. There hasn't been any, I don't say oversight, but there's been no lack of building the facilities up to the point of where you connect with the transmission line then.
You're correct. So our development department and the plan checkers ensure that the purple pipe goes in the streets. The purple pipe, we call it that because the potable water pipe would be a different color, and the purple pipe signifies that that's going to be a recycled water distribution line. Okay. So that's all been put into the areas where it will be distributed, assuming that the roads are already in those areas.
And same thing for with Laguna Ridge, I think they renamed it, but for the area, say, east of Bruceville over to 99, around the Auto Mall, Casumas Oaks High School, those areas that are, where you have the senior community and so forth, those areas have all been plumbed in the street.
Yes, I believe that all the areas within the Phase 2 area that are supposed to have the recycled water distribution, again, that's been put in, assuming that the streets are in those areas.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions?
Keep rolling.
Okay, so the fourth bullet here is explore direct potable reuse when regulations are finalized and modified to allow implementation in California. We didn't dive into this bullet further because the regulations are not finalized. So we've gone kind of as far as we can until we know more from the state about what they want to see for direct potable reuse. But for the other three bullets, I'll continue and we'll move into those a little bit more depth. So the limited system expansion, I've kind of broken this up into two different areas for the presentation. This is the area west of 99. There's an area in the city of Elk Grove called the Southeast Policy Area. The Southeast Policy Area is a new development area, and we've been working with them to see what recycled water use would look like in the area. We have a complete system design. It has an estimated capital cost of around $32 million. That's a large cost, so we've been actively working with the city of Elk Grove on this option. The city has retained Wood Rogers to look at our design and see if there's any efficiencies that can be gained out of this design. So we're in a back and forth with them to see if there's a way we could get recycled water into this area. So as far as the implementation plan, we're going to continue to work with the city. Most recently, we've supplied some of our modeling runs and results to them, to the city, so that they can, or to Wood Rogers, so that they can ensure that their model matches ours and they can begin to make some new decisions. The limited system expansion, this is the second piece of this. We go over to the east side of Highway 99, and our consultant, Brown and Caldwell, who helped us develop the recycled water feasibility study itself, has put together an appendix to that report, which moves into a deeper dive for what recycled water use and what a system could look like east of Highway 99. They put together a conceptual design. They've done some preliminary calculations for pipe sizing and for tank sizing. They've come up with an estimated capital cost of around $100 million for this system. This conceptual design hasn't been modeled yet. It's really still conceptual in nature, so there's more that would need to be done to make it a real design. But they've been able to use this for refined cost estimates so that when we do meet with customers, we can let them know what kind of cost we really have in order to deliver recycled water east of 99.
Madam Chair, before we leave that slide, so just be clear though, there's no infrastructure whatsoever. You don't have pipe 1 in the street, anything east of 99. There's no purple pipe anywhere.
That's correct, sir.
So we haven't plumbed any parks, any schools, any distribution system of any sort. And I guess when I see that price tag, and you're going to go through some other ones, my comment though references those as well. A lot of missed opportunities. Again, obviously, those are areas from a development standpoint outside the city of Elk Grove, but certainly this county. And again, we've had conversations before this board over time about, recycled water, and we didn't have the capacity. Obviously, we had 10 million gallons pre-Echo water project. Now the opportunity with tertiary water, but you look at overcrossings of 99 and so forth, or undercrossings. Interchanges have been built and rebuilt where there were opportunities, and again, now we come into it and we're looking at a $100 million potential price tag just for what you show on this, and there's not any bit of that's been built, at least in the red, I guess, probably in the purple as well. Maybe some of that purple's there, but
none of that's been built.
Okay, thanks.
All right. So the next part that we were talking about is the in-the-river swap option. Now, on this slide, all you see is the estimated capital cost is $5 million. But I do want to make sure that we make the point that for us, there's a huge upside to this piece of the option. This could be a more drought-tolerant water supply that we could then deliver to the Vineyard Surface Water Treatment Plant to supply water in more year types, including drier year types. And that would be a huge benefit to us. What we've done as far as the implementation plan is we've put together milestone events and a schedule in order to be able to go all the way through working with Regional San on an agreement to get this water through an environmental process and then to petition the State Water Resources Control Board finally so that Regional San could have the water right for this water and we could then take advantage of that resource through the freeway intake on the Sacramento River. So while we have this plan laid out and we have these milestone events, that's really taken a backseat to our conversations with Regional San about the South County Ag Program, which is what I'll talk about next. So as far as South County Ag, we've taken a deeper dive into South County Ag as well. We've worked with Regional San to see their criteria for the banked groundwater that's produced by South County Ag and how Zone 40 could take advantage of this banked groundwater. Now, in order for us to take full advantage and to fully participate in the large volume of banked groundwater that will be there, would require an estimated capital cost of $230 million from SCWA. This is on par with the investment in the Vineyard Surface Water Treatment Plant due to the volume of water that's available and in the year types that water is available. So we want to make the point.
If you could pause for a second, Mr. Natoli.
Yeah, just on that. So, is this the price tag of that's about 280 to 350 million, 280 million to build it? So you're saying the cost over and above what they've sought grants and the opportunity. I know they've qualified now at least through some of the initial rounds. I testified last week on behalf of the district for the participation in the Prop 1 funding. So you're saying that for the county water agency to then participate would be another $230 million on top of that?
Yes, sir. So
I need to understand that then, Michael.
Well, and when does the cost-benefit ratio pop into the equation here?
That makes a lot of sense, right? We have a dollars per acre foot that we're talking about. This is really a Regional San project, so if I say anything wrong, people from Regional San can
And we'll blame
me.
it on Regional San then.
No. So the part that they're working on in the grant project is in order to be able to supply the recycled water to the agricultural area in the south part of the county. That part, there's a cost to, right? Because you have to build a pump station to be able to take the tertiary treated water from the facility down Franklin Boulevard and into the south part of the county and then distribute that. In order for SCWA to take advantage of the banked groundwater, assuming some parameters like it's only available in 3 out of 5 years, a volume of water that's available, we'd end up having to install a large well field to be able to extract the banked groundwater, move that water into the Zone 40 area. So whether that's a raw water pipeline or where you set up the treatment, either way, the water has to be moved into the Zone 40 area. It has to be treated. The groundwater has to be treated to potable drinking water standards and then distributed to the system somewhere through the Zone 40 system. For us to accept that volume of water, really the place that you can plug into the system easily is at the Vineyard Surface Water Treatment Plant, because that's a facility that's big enough that's been designed to distribute water from there. So we're talking about not the ability to be able to move the water into the South County Ag area. This is our very top end estimate for how we would extract the water, treat the water, and distribute it in the Zone 40 system.
So just let me understand this. So then that's a non-urbanized area, and for the most part, it won't urbanize, certainly under the county's general plan, and I think, it's largely a farming area. That's the whole idea behind the South County Ag project. Don't we look at this from like a basin perspective? I mean, I guess I'm really getting puzzled here now that when I hear this, another $230 million, and you're going to take it from the non-urbanized area, basically a rural area, move it into the urbanized area. That's the whole idea behind SIGMA, is to see how, and again, you move water around to some degree on paper. I mean, you're doing that with an end stream swap. That's exactly what you're doing, putting it in, pulling it out, and all that. So I guess I'm really puzzled as to how we get with a price tag of $240 million. And from a policy standpoint, we'd have to be in a pretty critical situation to move that water out of the ag area into, you know, an urban setting. I'm not connecting here on the option here.
So this water would fall into...
Could you lean into the microphone, please?
I'm leaning as far forward as I can. I wish I were taller. So yes, this water would be considered within the larger groundwater framework through SGMA, through groundwater banking program. The ability to use it within any purveyor-specific area, in this case Zone 40, would require additional facilities to extract it. We don't have facilities that would have capacity to extract this additional water. So it becomes another source, but to maximize the use of this water and treat it, there would be additional facilities required to bring it from where it's going to and be stored up into the area that, you know, the service area where we would use it. So that's still part of the process. Making it available and having it build up in the basin, yes, that would happen, but that's not in the same place where we would actually be able to pull it out, treat it, and then distribute it to our service area.
Well, does it go back into one of the options that you're going to put on the shelf right now? So you got tertiary treated water that is good enough to put into the river. Obviously, we put secondary water in there now, but it's going to be, you know, you're going to use it for I guess, non-potable uses in the South County Ag Project. But so what I'm hearing here is that we would build the transmission facilities to take it down there through regional sanitation. We then get the benefit of all the things that come with that project. But then in order to actually use it from the standpoint of the water agency, we're going to spend a like amount or comparable amount. You know, now we're talking about $600 million roughly here to then pull it out of the ground. That's been saved by virtue of what we brought in to supplement ag water. So, I mean, what sort of coordination has occurred on this then? I mean, I see we're tracking this, but I guess, Michael, when I saw that, for some reason, I thought, when I read this report, saw the slideshow, I thought, well, that's just the number that we're using for South County Ag. Now, this is over and above on top of that. So now we're double the amount of money, and basically we're kind of ruling out the option or any participation with this project in South County Ag, which has multiple benefits. So.
And now, you know, we've had this discussion with Regional Sand before, and they have an understanding. They've actually expressed it in their work that there would be a need for additional extraction facilities. Going to the cost of that and how that's carried, that's where it falls into a water purveyor, you know, specific water agency's purview. And when we've looked at what would be made available, and again, this is a top end, as Mr. Grinstead said, this is a top end approach. It doesn't preclude scalability. Maybe there's a portion of it that we would utilize, but based on the availability, and which means that when can you use and when can you pull it out, where it's located, there would be an additional investment of infrastructure needed in order to deliver it to a place of use.
Well, I think it's fraught potentially with land use questions too, about being outside the urban boundary. I mean, debate has been going on obviously at LAFCO and as it relates to City of Elk Grove and where they get the water agency's ability to deliver. I think you're getting some pretty dangerous ground as it relates to some of the policy debate that goes on in this community on different boards, including this one, but certainly it's way outside our urban boundary.
And the discussions on the larger groundwater framework and SGMA have still to continue. So that's not concluded yet, but this is looking at it from the perspective of a water agency, a water purveyor trying to avail itself of this supply for the benefit of the folks who receive the service. What would that infrastructure load look like? This is sort of a top end. We need to understand that as it continues and as the groundwater discussions continue. What would that look like in the end? Because it's not something that the entire South County Ag project's done, and then we can start using the water. We still have to get it to the system where we would deliver it. And that doesn't preclude the other benefits, the other use basin-wide that would involve additional partners, because we're not the only entity in the groundwater basin. So that would fall into a groundwater banking framework that will, has been discussed and needs to be developed further as well. This is not any kind of finality in terms of a decision whether we would utilize any of this water, but this is just starting to frame out some of the infrastructure costs that would be associated with this project from a purveyor perspective.
Just one final question. So, but do we have kind of a competing interests here in the sense that we have the water agency looking at recycled water and then we have regional sanitation district, obviously with a major project that is on at least on the precipice of receiving funding for supporting ag, which is the long-term county general plan, and we again, I think to some of your points will fit well with our work on the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, but. Should we maybe bring this under one umbrella? Would it be, either make it, or, because I see some competing interests here.
Well, there's certainly the perspective from the regional sanitation district is different than from a water purveyor's perspective. We share, service areas overlap. Our, customers are one and the same for the most part. But when it comes to to what level a purveyor is going to avail itself of this opportunity, it has to look at how is that going to turn back on cost towards the folks that receive the service from the water agency. So we have to be sure that we're keeping that in the perspective. We absolutely acknowledge and support that there are broader benefits to the basin. They're the beneficiaries. How much of that would be carried by ratepayers who are paying to receive water service is something that we have to be cognizant of. Again, there's the SCGA, Sacramento Central Groundwater Authority. It's a great place to have that discussion, and the idea of the groundwater banking framework has been brought to that entity. So yes, a centralized approach. We've got the sustainable groundwater sustainability agencies forming in the basins. And so this will become part of that broader discussion on how groundwater is planned for and managed, and how individual entities within the basins are able to utilize it.
Okay.
Does that complete your report?
Yes, that completes the report. The last thing I have here to say is that we'll come back to your board with any significant developments, any milestone events as far as they relate to recycled water, and definitely with any funding needs, because your board will have the ultimate say over any funding. This is where we are today and how we're planning on moving forward. And with South County Ag, the last thing that I was going to say on this slide is that we have regular meetings with Regional San, and we really have a collaborative approach to try to figure out a way for Zone 40 to realize some kind of benefit from the banked groundwater and that program. So with that, I'll say thank you, and if you have any other questions, I'd like to try to answer them.
Yeah, I'm not sure I have a question for you, but I think the county executive has to be aware of this effort as go forward, and that staff should not take this as, it's a workshop, and we're not saying go ahead with it. We need to be cognizant of the overall cost to housing and businesses. I mean, we're getting this constant drumbeat from the legislature to provide more housing, and this is you said it's the top end of your agenda, but time will march on, and it might not be the highest point. And I think we really need to look at how that works out per unit, and what benefit we're getting from it. And if a subject like this is split between multiple agencies, I think there is often that means no one's really in charge. And I think the county ought to be on top of this and keep us informed. I would in no way consider this an opportunity for staff to think that they should be moving forward with this project. It is, as Michael said, just some interesting information that you've come up with so far. That's my feeling about it.
Understood, and we'll keep you in the loop, and I'll work with both mics in the back to make sure we keep you in the loop on this.
Yeah. Did Saxan have anything they wanted to say?
I don't have anything to add, no.
Oh, all right.
Madam Chair, if I just could just maybe echo your comments a bit, because there is, as the last attachment to all of this, the implementation plan, resources needed for the initiative, obviously require further board approval, but we've got a $5 million budget. It was on your slide, but includes a $2 million price tag, at least estimated, for draft and final EIR, $1 million for water rights application and legal work. There's also $500,000 for public outreach, $500,000 for miscellaneous other costs, and then a $1 million contingency. It's a lot of money. And again, I think you've certainly taken from the action. It's been stated in the slides, and against to go to Ms. Peters' point that, we approved this work plan, or at least the points that we were going to work on. But to your point, you have about, there's embedded in this ongoing direction that begins to expend significant dollars. Now, it still requires further board approval. But again, I kind of touched on some of the issues that, at least, and I got some answers to some of the questions I had. But we got a lot of work going on with groundwater. Again, water agency is very engaged in that. Regional Sands working on a project. We've got this. Again, I see missed opportunities. I said that earlier that, we're not going to overcome those. We're not going to take $100 million and put recycled water into the east side of the freeway. That's probably not going to happen. We missed that opportunity. It's gone. So before we just leave this workshop and then for Michael and for Mike, but in all Michaels, I guess, that maybe we need to have some more focus on this. And this is a workshop. We can ask some questions here today, but I guess I'd like to see kind of where not just where the coordination is going on, but before we embark upon a $5 million approach here, that's going to have significant resources committed to it, and it has a time frame. It doesn't have the dates initiated in January, but that's about as far as we got in this board workshop. I think there needs to be some more discussion. I concur with the chair.
We'll bring it back as a workshop.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions on the subject? Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Michael.
That concludes the morning. Oh, I'm sorry. We have one off-agenda speaker. Mary Louise, sorry, I can't read the handwriting. It looks like Blazevich. That's good. Oh, good.
Good afternoon, supervisors, and the last name is Blazevich. The Sheriff's Department, who made their presentation here earlier, has answered part of the question that I have. I spent about 36 hours in Oak Park with a family member. During that 36 hours, I heard one siren and one overhead airplane. I live in the Arden Arcade District, which I believe is your district, Supervisor Peters. And I went over to the Sheriff's Department this morning and I got some information. In the last week of April, there were 1,100 calls to the Sacramento County Sheriff. With each of those calls, not all of them had the sirens going. During that week, we also had maneuvers by the National Guard, and I live just south of McClellan. Yeah. Well, I'm in the health profession, medical profession. This is just so deleterious to health. Nervous conditions, heart conditions. We were preempted by the East Area rapist or whoever that was that committed those crimes. So we didn't get to have an opportunity to inform the community what was going to be going on, or those maneuvers. And of course, those planes were flying out of McClellan Field, rattling, not literally, maybe a little bit of an exaggeration here, but literally rattling the area. I said foundations. Okay, so I think the sheriff has focused in on what can be done to help mitigate some of this, but I don't know if we need some programs to the four corners of where I live. There are apartment dwellings, and I know that in many instances there's grief going on in these areas. And so I don't know if we can do anything more than what the sheriff is doing right now, or if there is some monies available. I don't know. I know that if I'm helping a family member and I look at this from a microscopic point of view, that I will adjust my own spending habit to accommodate what they can use as children. Okay, so I don't know where to go with this, except that, is that excessive? 1,100 calls in 1 week? I mean, dear, it's goodness, it's just, to me, it's devastating. And I never would have thought that much of it had I not spent those 36 hours in Oak Park where nothing was going on. It's like, my goodness.
So,
and the property.
Is your comment about the noise from the sirens and the airplanes?
It is, Supervisor Peters. God, great God! I mean, we could have notified the community. Get your earplugs. If you are suffering from any kind of illness, critical illness, get out of the community for the 4 days. I mean, we have to work with other people in order for national security. I mean, I understand what is the top priority in this country, and so I don't know what to say. I'm just, I don't know what to say. I'm here to put it out there in the public arena. I'm here to let you know that this is going on, and that to me, as a person who's lived in this community for many, many years, there's got to be something that we can do to help to lower this kind of problem. I mean, I don't know if any of you do live in that area, but 1,100 calls in 1 week, that's, to me, that's just, it speaks to okay, I guess I would speak for my dad. When all those apartment houses were built and the infrastructure was not put in to accommodate, my dad would have been down here. And he just said, no way. You guys, we can't allow this. We have to be able to afford the infrastructure to take care of this area. And so, I don't know. It just, to me, it's like poor planning, that it wasn't planned out. And so, of course, we have all kinds of issues going on in that community, obviously, if there's 1,100 calls. So, I don't know. I put it out there. I'll do more research and see what I, as a citizen, how I can participate, what I can do to assist the community, and I don't know which way to go, because I'm, for myself personally, I'm a self-taught doctor, holistic, and so I have interest in medicine, and
okay. Well, thank you for your comments. It would help me follow what your complaint is if I could see it in writing. If you could maybe put your thoughts together on a piece of paper, it might be easier to follow.
I think that's probably.
It sounds like you have more than one complaint.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea, because I was not aware of the hot.
Right.
Yeah, and that, to me, that's an absolute blessing, because those people do absolutely need our care. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any further business for us? Okay.
No, not for this morning.
We're recessed until 2 o'clock then.
We have a closed session.
And we have a closed session.